The objective of this tutorial is to introduce you to Untangler and how to use it to convert spreadsheet files and provide a brief overview of the analyses. Before we start, there'll be a number of definitions we need to address, and these will be pointed out as we go along, which hopefully will help with the understanding of them. Firstly, to use Untangler, you need to be given a login and password to access the site. And this will be given to you by an administrator, and we are assuming here that this has already happened. So let's first of all log in. If you can successfully sign in, then you should arrive at a screen that looks like this. On the right hand side you have a drag and drop box, and on the left hand side you have a timeline showing previous conversions. Now it's important at this point to point out that there are different levels of users, and I've logged in as a support user, which is indicated up on the top right. Other users will see different types of screens, but we're just going to focus on a support user for the moment. Whilst we're looking at this first screen, it's worth just spending a little bit of time looking at some of the information and links that it provides. So across the top, we're in the Untangler, so if we click that, we just stay where we are. We can also access the admin part of the system, and I'll come back to this later. There's a help section, a contact link, and also we can see our account and the settings associated with it. And this is where we would come if, for example, we wanted to change our password. The conversion screen is designed to be pretty intuitive, but probably the most important point is the template which it is associated with. Now in this example it's called Group Life Demo, but every account is associated with at least one template, and this will determine the output you get from the system, so it's pretty important. On the left hand side there's an Add File button. This is just an alternative way of uploading files to convert if you don't use the drag and drop box. There's also a Display button, and this enables you, if you select a previous conversion, to display the results. I won't do that now. And there's some more information down at the bottom. Just to be clear about this, a red icon associated with a file in the timeline means the results are no longer available, and that's typically because the data has been deleted from the system. In this example, they're all still available. Okay, so before we start, the assumption is we are working with a known template. And if you don't know what the template is, then you'll need to look at the admin section to see it. To access the admin section in this level of account, click on admin, and it will take you to a new tab, which is the admin section of the system. And from there, we can navigate to templates. It shows us the templates that are available for this account, and in fact there's only one. If I click on that, it shows me the template, the name of the template, the dictionaries it is able to access, and if I go to fields, it lists the output fields. So this is really important. and worth spending a bit of time on. The output fields are the results that you are looking to extract your data to. By that I mean any inbound file, any file you upload to convert, Untangler will attempt to output it to a file based on this template. So let's have a look at the template elements. Firstly, title. These are the output column heading names that you will get from a conversion, and they will be listed across the top of your output file in the order that they're displayed. The name is the specific item that is associated with that title, and these normally come from Untangler's dictionaries. If I was to click on these orange links, it would take me to the dictionary entry where I'd be able to look at more information about that particular item. The value in this case is all blank, but if there was anything in there, that would be a default value that would show in the absence of a successful conversion. The source tells me where the item's coming from, and where it says code, that's coming from a dictionary. I also have an output format, and this describes the output format of the item, whether it's a string of text or, for example, date or money. And finally, the necessity. And this is a way of telling Untangler how to treat the output data. And this will be important when we look at the analyses. But at this stage, it's just important to know that there are 3 levels of necessity, which are mandatory, expected, and optional. And in this example, we can see there are 2 mandatory fields. One is date of birth, one is salary, and a mix of the other ones. The support user can't edit or change the output template, so we can view it here. And the idea is that it remains stable so that, as I said before, the files you're converting are converted to this output. In order to edit and change items, you'll need to be an administrator, and we'll look at that in another video. Okay, let's go back to the user interface. So now we understand what the screen is showing us. Let's have a look at actually how it works. I've got 3 demo files I'm going to convert. The first one is a spreadsheet with sample employee data. And you might remember, looking at the template, the column order in this is different, as are the column names. So if I drop that file into Untangler, after a few seconds, I see the output. And what we're seeing here is that template and the column order that we wanted. So Untangler has changed that input file to provide an output based on the template. There are a few things that are worth pointing out at this stage. Firstly, there are some letters in brackets for some of the columns. These represent the source file column reference from where the data has been selected. So in the example of employee first name, that would have been column C on the input file. Secondly, across the top here, there's a little legend which shows us some information. We have one error, one warning, 4 information advisories, and this final figure, which is actually the row count associated with the inbound file. If you want to find out more about these items, they're actually listed under Analyses, which is a tab next to the Grid tab. So to look at them listed, I just click on that, and there are expandable lists associated with those items. I'll come back to those later. The grid is what we call this output listing. And it shows the result of the conversion. The idea is that visually you'll be able to spot the errors, warnings associated with this file. And for example, here we can see that Bath has been flagged as an error under the postcode column. Furthermore, in brackets, it actually gives us the cell reference A3 on the inbound file. And if I open that up, we can see that column A, row 3, has the error in it. And that is that a postcode was expected, but actually someone's put the city name instead. So Untangler can't automatically fix that, so it's telling you that it needs to be fixed in the source data. And this is probably a good example to show you how to fix errors on Untangler. Rather than edit the data on Untangler, you need to go back into the source file and put in the corrected value. And save it. Now, to clear the grid, all we do is we click the History button, which takes us back to the input screen. And when we drop the file back in again, it does another conversion. This time, you can see that it's happy with that postcode and the error has now gone. Let's have a look at the warning. So we go into Analyses. And the warning tells us that in column F, there are inconsistent dates. There's mixed formats with strings as well as dates. Now that's fine in the sense that the dates of birth have all been correctly formatted. So it's just giving us an indication that the source file wasn't consistent. And if you're happy with that, that's fine. The information advisories are typically bits of information which are just useful to know. So let's have a look. For example, there was no column heading in the template, and so Untangler doesn't know what the column heading type is. It tells us the source column B, so if I look at that file B, it's the word employee repeated, but I can just ignore it if it's not something that we need to know about. Or alternatively, it might be important and then I'll need to speak to the administrator about whether we change the template to include that. One other thing is sometimes the templates are much wider than this demonstration and so span across the screen, and if there's lots of empty information, you can make them easier to view just by clicking on hide columns if empty, and all that does is collapse the grid and get rid of empty columns. So now we've got 53 rows, we've dealt with the error, and what I can do now is download the result. And what that will do is create a download file based on the output template that we wanted. First name, if I just format that, we've got our list of employees cleaned up and standardized to use in any way which we want. And that concludes the conversion process. Just one final thing. If I go back to the history, what we can see here is that there was the first conversion I did that had the postcode error in it. So if I select that and display it, there we go, there's the one with the postcode error. I just go back, clear the grid, take that off and apply the, have a look at the one I did when I'd fixed the error. And there we are, that's it displaying. So, assuming they're not deleted, and that depends on the settings associated with the data retention policy of the Untangler system, that's how the timeline works to look at previous conversions. There's quite a lot of information covered there, but I hope it was useful. And as always, please contact Untangle if you have any questions. Thanks for your time.